Healing is understanding that at some point you are no longer a product of your environment, but instead you are a product of your choices, of your decisions. It is, after all, your life experience. And that may be stinging to hear, especially if you have wore it as a badge of dishonor or taken it around with you like a crutch. You know, the things that have occurred in your childhood. Maybe you had absent parents. Maybe you had parents who treated you horribly. That has been the reason for you growing up and being the way that you are and seeing things the way that you see them. In truth, our parents are our greatest teachers in this life experience. They truly are our greatest teachers. That's what I believe. I'm in no way invalidating your experiences and the ways that they have absolutely affected you and affected your life to this point. But at some point, you have to take accountability. Like, you can't play the sidekick role in your own life experience. You are the main character, and you can't play a supporting part when you're supposed to be the lead. And chalking your ways of being up to because of how I grew up, this gives away all of your power and leadership in your own life. You have to take charge. You have to stand up and say, yes, I experienced this, but it does not define me. I do not have to carry it for the entirety of my life. It doesn't matter if you've carried it for 20 or 30 years up until this point. You can still put it down today, right now. You can still make peace with your experience and move forward and use what you've gone through in a way that empowers not only you, but others who may also have experienced something similar or they're going through their own thing. You can turn your painful experience into your greatest purpose. It's a matter of you freeing yourself from the victimhood mentality and embracing an empowered mentality. And listen, I am speaking from a place of experience. I'm not telling you what I heard. I'm telling you what I know. I held such great anger and bitterness and resentment for my father because he was never there at any period in my growing up when I felt I needed him the most. I can still remember being a little girl, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 years old, sitting at the front door of my grandmother's house, sitting in between her burglar bars and her big wooden door, looking out into the street, waiting for my father to pull up because he told me he was going to pick me up. And my mother would wait with me. This was her mother, you know. My mother would wait. She never spoke ill of him to me. When it got to a point that we needed to go home, you know, then she was left to deal with trying to explain to me that we had to go home, that we couldn't just continue to wait forever. Growing up, that happened so many times, so frequently. As a young kid, I was never like, oh, he's not coming. Anytime I talked to my dad and he said, oh, I'm going to come and pick you up and we're going to spend time together. I'm going to take you shopping or we're going to go to the zoo or whatever he told me. Whatever he told me, I believed it. And I was like, okay. And it didn't matter how many times he told me that before and never showed up. I still believed it. And then at some point, something clicked. Innocence was gone from me. And it's like it turned to rage and anger and bitterness and resentment. And I held it. I carried it for so many years. You know, at some point, I must have been a sheer terror for my mother because I was always fighting. Always, like, how do you start school? It's your first day somewhere and you get in a fight and get suspended. How? That's how I knew how to express my aggression. That's how I chose to express it. Baby, My cousin taught me how to throw them hands. I was throwing them every chance I got. Always a smart kid, an intelligent kid. Always did well academically. I didn't know how to manage my emotions. I didn't know what to do with them. I was always in trouble. I was always grounded and on punishment and having things taken away. You're grounded for the entire month. The effects of that experience with my father was beginning then. I didn't realize it, but I carried it into adulthood, and it showed up how I conducted myself in relationships, friendships, romantic relationships, even work. I was always trying to prove myself, prove that I was worthy. It was like a snowball effect. When I began my healing journey after the death of my child, I started to unpack this stuff. My father actually called me. I was still on maternity leave from work. He told me everything that I needed to hear as a kid, and he explained himself, and he apologized, and he acknowledged, meant more to me than I could even fathom in that moment. From that point, what are you going to do? You can't use that as an excuse anymore. And really, if I'm honest, even before then, I really should not have been using that as an excuse for my behavior. But hey, here we are. We listen, we don't judge. After that conversation, I humanized my father. I think we get this ideal of our parents that they should know better. They should know how to behave. They should know how to conduct themselves. They should know how to treat their children. If you didn't want kids, then you shouldn't have had them, especially 5 or 6 of them. But in truth, we are all here to grow. We're all here to learn. We are all here for our soul's expansion. That's my belief. And so our parents are also on their own journeys. In having one of my conversations with my soul, I call it, where I'm in dialogue with myself as if I'm sitting here talking to somebody face to face. We are in dialogue. It was revealed to me, what if he fulfilled his part of the agreement? What if his part was to simply get you here? Like the sole contract that y'all agreed on coming into this life experience together. What if he fulfilled his part of the agreement? What if it was simply to get you here? You know what I mean? And then he had to go and figure out his own journey. He had to go and figure out his own life. Have you ever considered what could have been had your father been in your life, but he wasn't at his healthiest? What if you were exposed to other experiences as a byproduct of him not being well? And I was also reminded and encouraged to look at the fact that I've always had everything that I needed. Both of my grandmothers, each their own version of nurturing in my upbringing. My mother, who was there, who literally did her absolute best, considering she was a very young mother, 16 years old. I could have had a very different life, even if just growing up with my mother. She was still a child herself. I always had family around me that I needed. So I've never lacked, although it felt like it because my father wasn't there. In truth, that could have been for my own protection. It could have been for my highest good. So we circle back around to it being my responsibility because at some point, I'm no longer a victim of my circumstances, or a product rather of my circumstances. At some point, you become a product of your choices. And we can get into a much deeper conversation on this. I really just wanted to share that and give you that perspective, offer that to you. I'd love to get your thoughts on it. What have your experiences been like? What revelations have you had? What truths have you come to in your own journey? And at this point, I will finally introduce myself. My name is Nicole Mungaza. I am an author and the founder of the Healing Cave community, a space for us to come together through our shared experiences in life, our most difficult challenges, we explore self discovery and how we can transform the energy of those most painful experiences into something that is positive, not only for ourselves, but also for the collective. I would love for you to subscribe to the channel, become a part of this community. There are links in the description if you would like to join our private community offline, where I offer tools, resources, downloads, and of course, our chat community where we keep in touch at all times. Until next time, you guys, check out one of these videos and let me know what you think. Let's talk soon.